So we're going to be talking about spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity and how this can show up in your life. And through me sharing this stuff with you, you'll better understand what spiritual bypassing actually is. So the first one is wanting others to be positive and trying to drag them with you. And I remember when I first did this, I first watched the movie The Secret, and I was expressing a lot of gratitude. I was manifesting things were changing in my life, and I wanted others to experience the same too. And so I started sharing it with family members, with friends, and I was highly disappointed because some of them would fall asleep, some of them were just not interested, they thought this was boring, and I didn't understand why. I just didn't get it. And because they thought in this way, I started to think negative about them. I started to have negative thoughts about them. And so I just focused on being positive thinking. And this led me to even being in relationships that were very toxic, and just thinking that all I got to do is think a better positive thought. All I got to do is think more positive and my relationship will change. And this is not how things work, okay? It's called spiritual bypassing, as we're talking about. It's called toxic positivity, where we're not looking into our shadow. We're not looking into our own pains. We're not looking into what's not good. You're just trying to manifest a better life, or you're trying to create things as better, or you're just trying to think a better thought. Avoiding what's really going on, and not dealing with the pain, and not dealing with the things that are actually going on in your life. So in the first example, like I said, I watched the movie The Secret, and I was trying to project positivity onto others, and I was trying to drag them along with me because I felt good. I felt like I was making progress in something, and so I wanted to bring people along with me. And we can't do that. If you're taught your whole life that the color red is pink, then you're going to think the color red is pink until someone tells you differently. And even when someone tells you differently, you might not even believe that it's actually red, and you'll end up arguing with them, debating and all of this stuff, right? And so in life, we'll see someone who's a Christian, and then we'll have a Muslim, and then they're battling between each other because their whole life they've been taught a certain way of being, right? They've been taught certain behaviors, certain thoughts. And so everyone sees life differently. And if your whole life you've been taught that the color red is pink, then that's your level of consciousness, right? And so for me, I happen to, be in the certain, environments around certain people, having certain experiences, which led to the movie The Secret, which opened my mind to being positive and manifesting and all of this stuff, right? But what I didn't realize at the time is that it's actually okay to be negative. Okay, I thought it was not okay to be negative. It's not okay to have negative emotions, and we're going to be talking about that later in this video. But we get into this, way of thinking that everything needs to be positive, and that the people around you also need to be positive. And the thing is, when you wanting everyone around you to be positive, you are literally thinking that they are negative, right? You're thinking that they're negative people, they're bad people, or, you wish they would be different. Okay, so in saying that, you're actually being negative about that person anyway, because you're projecting a negative thought on them. You're judging them as someone who is negative. So in that example, you are being the negative one. There's a saying, and I've done this a lot in my videos in the past, is that when you point the finger, right? If you point the finger at the camera or your screen, a computer screen, or your phone screen right now, you'll see that 3 fingers point back at you. Okay, so when you point your finger, 3 fingers point back at you. You are always responsible for how you see the world and how you perceive others. And so I don't judge anyone as negative or positive. I know that everyone has, conditioning and things that they've been through, and, traumas and all of this stuff. How does a killer become a killer? Might be something wrong with his biology, or something wrong with his chemistry going on with his brain or her brain, or whatever it is. Maybe they was abused when they was younger. Maybe they have ancestral trauma. Maybe they have this, maybe they have that. Okay, so, I don't see someone as negative or positive. It just is. All right, and we need to get, we need to understand that a little bit more, and not trying, even though we love these people and we want to drag them along with us, we want them to be happy, we want them to have fulfillment, we want them to have more joy in their lives, you know, the key is actually just becoming more of the light, you know, just being a better you and accepting them for who they are. And you may have heard me talk about this quite a lot in my videos, just accepting the negative, right? And getting on with your life, focusing on being the light, focusing on building what you want to build. And can you avoid the sun? No, you can't avoid the sun, right? The sun is always going to be shining, and that's what you want to become. And then people can't avoid seeing your life and the things, the changes that you're making and whatever, right? And that's going to inspire them, okay? Inspire. It comes from within, right? When you're trying to motivate people, when you're saying, hey, you should watch this, you should do this, right? You're trying to motivate them to watch something, right? You're trying to give them a motive to take action, right? To do something, to change their lives, right? However, most people only take action from inspiration. Inspiration comes from within, where you've become an example, you've become sort of a role model for the life that you're living. And as you begin to do that, people then start to look up to you, just like they look up to the sun. You know, they'll start to look up to you, not in a like, oh, I'm better than you kind of way, but like, you know, they want what you want because they can see what you have, and so they're inspired by it. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, this is just random. I know it's materialistic, and there's nothing wrong with materialism, by the way. Let's say you have a mansion, right? You have a mansion, and then you invite your friends around who you was trying to motivate before, right? They see that you have this mansion, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. And you start talking with them, having conversations, whatever. Now they're way more interested in what you have to say than before, when you're at this level of consciousness and you're just starting out and you're just trying to, you know, drag people along. Does that make sense? So another example of spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity is compartmentalizing spirituality. And basically what I mean by that is you'll have to see someone wearing something specific. You know, they look like a guru, they got a long beard, they, you know, wear the clothes, they got the crystals on, they're doing all the stuff which is in alignment with spirituality. And even doing that to yourself, thinking that you need to wear these things and you need to go take ayahuasca and you need to go and do DMT and you need to go do this, you need to go do that. You know, you are putting spirituality into a box. You can't put spirituality into a box. Can you put God or the universe into a box? No. All right, you can't put any person or any being into a box. And so I understand that I can learn from someone younger than me. I can learn from someone older than me. I can learn from someone who is white. I can learn from someone who is black. I can learn from someone who is Asian. I can learn from, you know, different cultures, different backgrounds. My mind's open to receiving information, from knowledge, you know, and things like this. Okay, so you know, I don't compartmentalize. I don't block out, you know, things just because, you know, you know, my mind says it's not spiritual, right? We don't want to categorize people, put people in boxes. When we put people in boxes in reality, outside of spirituality, outside of like spirituality is in a box, is not in a box. You know, we have things like racism, sexism, ageism, we have classism, we have homophobia, we have all of these things, right? We create all of these boxes. And so putting spirituality in a box is spiritual bypassing. You know, you can look up someone in the street and then because they're being negative, you're like, oh, they're not spiritual. Like, you know, so, you know, it's things like that. Another example of spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity is thinking that you're a nice person. Okay, thinking that you're a nice person and that you need to be a nice person all the time. You need to appear nice to others, right? And you avoid confrontation, you avoid being angry, you avoid sharing your true thoughts and emotions. You bury it and try and be positive about it. You know, you're afraid to express the negative emotions. You're afraid to express, you know, how you're really feeling, your frustration, your anger, or whatever it is, because you want to be spiritual, right? Again, compartmentalizing spirituality. You need to be spiritual, you need to be positive. Okay, nice, the etymology of nice, the real original meaning of nice means foolish, means you're a doormat. Okay, and so being nice leads you to being a doormat. People will walk over you because you don't have any boundaries, you don't have any red flags and all of this stuff. So, people will take advantage of you. You'll tend to attract narcissistic people because they can see that you're fragile in a way, or weak-minded, right? And so you attract toxic people towards you by being in those mindsets. And maybe you've learned this behavior from young, because I had the same issue. I was brought up by my mother, and she always told me to be nice and be good to people and all this stuff. As a young person, you don't really understand that you're also allowed to be frustrated. You're also allowed to be annoyed. You're also allowed to express negative emotions when you don't want to do something, and you're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to cry. Your emotions are valid. Always. They're always valid. It's what you feel, because it's what you believe. It's what you feel. It's what you're experiencing right now. And it's okay to cry. I'll be on a session in my live sessions or one-on-one sessions with people. And by the way, you can get a free energy reading below to find out what vibrational frequency you resonate at and what's blocking you from manifesting more money, more happiness, and more fulfillment in your life. But I'll be working with people, and they'll be apologizing for crying. Sorry. You hear it on TV as well. People cry, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to cry. It's like crying is bad or something. No, crying is not bad. It's neutral. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to have negative emotions. We always want to show up as someone, as positive and, looking good and, keeping up the appearances and all this stuff. And this is, again, toxic positivity. And it's actually interesting because in narcissistic relationships, when you're with a narcissist, in the external, around others, around people, friends, family members, your relationship kind of looks amazing because the narcissist will begin to show up as nice. They'll begin treating people as nice, and they'll begin doing favors and all of this stuff. And it looks like they're a good person and like, wow, you got an amazing one, right? In reality, when you get back home, they start treating you differently. They're not, positive. They're not treating you the same way. And you get confused, right? You get into this state of confusion where you're like, well, they're positive out here, they're negative here. And it's like, your emotions, your mindset gets confused and discombobulated. And so you end up staying in that relationship for a very long time. And this is how narcissists mess with your psychology. It's like a hamster on a wheel, or a rabbit, or a hamster chasing a carrot, and you're constantly chasing this love and this feeling of, things being good. So being nice all the time is actually a form of people pleasing, right? It's a form of getting validation and significance from others. Okay, because you think that if you're negative and you confront people, or you're frustrated, or you express some negative emotion towards someone, that they're going to see you as a negative person. They're going to see you as a bad person, and I can tell you that's not how it is. When you stand up for yourself, people respect you way more than when you're nice all the time. Now, obviously, you want to discern whether you're going to let something go, or you're going to confront someone if you feel like they're going a little bit too far. So another form of spiritual bypassing, this is a difficult one because I used to experience this myself, is sensitivity to things, right? When you're sensitive to things and you make justifications and excuses on why you can't do things. Okay, so when someone is sensitive, usually, they'll say, oh, I really can't deal with this right now. I'm too sensitive. All of this stuff, and it creates this sense of I'm weak or fragile. You can be a very strong empath. You can be a very strong, highly sensitive person, or a HSP, and knowing that you can be strong and you can, do things that you want to do. So usually we'll enable ourselves to not be around certain people, not be around certain environments, and we'll tend to avoid them. So our sensitivities, in my opinion, is unresolved problems that you need to deal with in your past. Okay, when you become super sensitive, it doesn't necessarily mean you're more spiritual than others. Usually people are sensitive because they've been hurt, right? They've been through traumatic experiences. It's just like someone when they go to war and they have PTSD, right? They have these experiences, they experience a bunch of trauma, and guess what? They become more sensitive. So whenever a door slams or, they hear a loud bang, they're scared, they're more sensitive to it, right? And so we want to acknowledge this, that we don't want to use our sensitivities to try and avoid things. It's more that there's something deeper going on within. The sensitivity is a symptom to something going on within, and you can shift that. I can tell you from my own experience that I've healed so much to the point where I'm not as sensitive as I used to be. I used to be very, very sensitive to everything. And, I didn't want to go outside. I literally wanted to stay indoors all the time. But I done the work, I done the healing, and I grew into a different person. And I started seeing myself and visualizing myself as a strong empath, and doing all this stuff because I didn't want to be this sensitive. I didn't want to feel all of this stuff and all of everyone's negative energy, right? I didn't want to feel all of this stuff. And so I did something about it and I healed myself and I grew into a different version of myself. And now I'm able to deal with stuff. Now, another form of spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity is using the saying that it doesn't resonate. Okay, so when you say it doesn't resonate, sometimes people assume that they're using intuition. Okay, real intuition is when you're taking tuition within, okay, when you really understand yourself. And most people use it doesn't resonate as an excuse for avoiding fear, an excuse for not moving forward with something, an excuse when something feels uncomfortable. Intuition is a psychic ability where you know that someone's not for you or something's not for you, okay? But in saying that, sometimes people confuse that with fear, right? So they assume it's a psychic, like, no, this is not for me, this doesn't resonate with something that they're afraid to do. They don't like the feeling that they're feeling right now, and they get really scared. They get really scared and say, no, this doesn't resonate. Fear doesn't exist in intuition. Intuition is psychic, meaning if you have a psychic ability, you know that it's never fear. Like you have this ability to see stuff, clairvoyant or claircognizant or clairsentient, whatever it is, right? You know that it's like an emptiness, right? It doesn't really necessarily come with feelings and emotions, right? It's usually like a vision or something that you'll see or something that you hear, a knowing. It's really like it's a neutral feeling. It's like an isness. But the key we need to acknowledge is in life, we thrive in fear and excitement. Fear and excitement is when you're just stepping outside of your comfort zone. And some people will confuse that with intuition and avoid moving forward with it because they've been trained by toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing that whenever things get uncomfortable, I need to go and retreat to being safe and be comfortable, right? Success is not comfortable. Success is uncomfortable. Making progress is uncomfortable. And the law of attraction community, the spiritual community, is training people to avoid this stuff, to avoid feeling any kind of fear. And if I feel any fear, any negative emotion, I need to avoid it at all costs. No, this is keeping you stuck, right? A plant, when it's growing, right, it needs to break through the soil. Like it has to face, all of this stuff. It has to push through. A diamond is created by pressure. We have to understand that sometimes we need to experience hard or difficult, challenging, uncomfortable emotions in order to get us to the next level. So basically, overall, what I'm saying here is don't use your intuition as a form of spiritual bypassing. As soon as you use the word intuition or it doesn't resonate, really question, why it doesn't resonate. Or, is this really an intuitive thought? Or is it a fear? Is it a judgment? Is it a way of avoiding pain, avoiding something that you need to deal with, something that you need to process? Some people will make you feel uncomfortable to get you to look at yourself. And Jaden, my business partner, he gets some calls every day and he's a coach, right? He helps people understand more about themselves and actually what's going on to help them get where they want to be. But some people will take it as being judged or, as they want to hear positive stuff about themselves. And that's why, things like astrology, People tend to focus on the positive stuff and what's positive about me, and they only like this and only like that, and if it's negative, oh, it doesn't resonate. No, we want to accept and realize these aspects of ourselves. One of the things that was showing up in my astrological chart was that I am a person who is impulsive. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that was a big hit. Yeah, it affected my emotions, but then I had to look into it and see, where am I in being impulsive, right? And I found areas where I'm being impulsive so I could grow from it, and so I grew into a better person from it. So usually pain shows up as a warning sign to do something about it, not to avoid it and say it doesn't resonate. So the last one here, number 6, is of spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity, is this whole love and light thing. Love and light, only think positive, only positive vibes, no negative energy around here, right? No negative emotions. It's when we're totally focused on trying to think positive all of the time, trying to feel positive feelings all of the time, and avoiding negative emotions and not dealing with our negative emotions, negative thoughts, or not even necessarily dealing with them, because I don't necessarily see things like that. I'm okay with negative thoughts, negative feelings. I'm okay with positive thoughts, positive thinking. It's like I'm aware of both, and it's accepting both the yin and the yang of our being. We want to realize that we are the light and the dark, right? We are the light and the shadow. The light in our body is the heart. The shadow is the mind, right? The mind is the ego. The heart is unconditional love, right? They both work together to create neutrality. It's just like having hot and cold, temperature, up and down, direction, male and female, human, light man. There's no such thing as light without dark. There's no such thing as dark without light. We are both aspects. And when we can accept our negative side, we will have a much more peaceful life. Too many of us fight our negative emotions, our negative feelings. We try to fight it. And when you fight it, guess what? You are the person at war with your negative thoughts. Why would you want to create war? We see that in our external reality. There's war going on, right? And so if you want to create peace, then you create peace with your negative thoughts rather than fighting them and avoiding them, avoiding your negative emotions, avoiding your past, avoiding the things that you've been through in your life. The more you avoid it, the more you're creating war and disharmony within. For me, I'm not attached to the positive. I'm not attached to the negative, because I understand in life, we got waves, right? The tide comes in, the tides comes out, right? We breathe in, we breathe out, yin and yang. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. The moon goes up, the moon goes down. We have seasons, right? Autumn, winter, spring, summer. Things are always moving. When we look at the heartbeat on, when they're on the operation table or whatever, and it's gonna beep, 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 ups and downs, right? The electromagnetic, whatever it is, the energy from the heart is showing a certain frequency, right? Ups and downs, sound waves, ups and downs, right? It oscillates or whatever, right? So I understand that there's going to be ups in life. There's going to be downs in life. There's going to be ups in life. There's going to be downs in life. Stay neutral and observe that this is a positive time in my life, and not attaching yourself to it. And then at the negative, same thing. This is a negative time in my life, not attaching myself to it. Just being with it. We're human beings, right? We got to be. And so be with the negative, be with the positive. It's normal. It's natural. Anyone that's telling you to just totally think positive all of the time is teaching you toxic positivity and probably just trying to get you to buy their stuff. Literally. Why? Because it's more sexy. It's more attractive. It makes you feel good, right? It's entertaining. Just feel good. Focus on feeling good. Feel good all the time, When you're feeling bad, just think a better thought. Just keep on thinking a better thought, right? This is not healthy, and we're being taught to totally avoid, what's going on. Tony Robbins has this saying that, if there's weeds in the garden, you don't just say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. There's weeds. right? Pull out the weeds, right? So we want to acknowledge this, like, there's weeds in your garden and they need to be pulled out, right? And not avoiding them, thinking that there's no weeds, right? If you want a, nice, bed of flowers, you want a nice garden, you want to grow your vegetables, you want to grow your fruits, you want to have lovely flowers, and the bees and the insects are going to live from it, and blah, 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 right? You're going to create a positive environment. First, you have to pull out, the garbage, the weeds, the parasites, the parts that are going to kill the plants and all this stuff, right? You have to make way for it. Okay, so I always say in my teachings that you want to deprogram before you reprogram. You want to unlearn before you learn, right? The feminine always comes first, right? You always want to be removing one aspect in order to create a new aspect. Like, in order to attract a relationship into your life, you have to let go of the past so you can welcome someone new in. You need to make room for them completely. So like I said before in this video, I spoke about Jaden speaking to people. This is called the manifestation diagnosis session, where we dive into what's going on in your shadow, dive into this toxic positivity stuff, dive into how you can really create the reality that you want, whether that's starting your own business, whether that's overcoming the past, whether that's making more money, whether it's finding more fulfillment, finding your purpose in life. Okay, this manifestation diagnosis session is very powerful. It also comes along with a free energy reading where I personally read your energy and find out what's going on the energetic level, an unseen level, so that you can remove those hidden blocks in the unseen realm, so you can really create the reality that you want with much more ease, and actually making the law of attraction work 10 times better. All the information will be in the link in the description. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and check this video over here on how to guarantee manifestation, and check out this 3-part series that I created for you on better understanding about vibration and what that really means, and how to actually raise it without toxic positivity, actually dealing with stuff. All right, click this over here, and remember to keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding, and I'll speak to you soon. Peace.